Hi everyone, Red Reefer here. Welcome to the second edition of the Focus Friday episodes. A question that I get asked quite a lot is if I have pictures of my rock work while it was still bare rock, so without the corals attached, because people want to know how I built up my Reefscape. Unfortunately, since this Reefscape has been developed over the course of about 1.5 years, I don't have pictures of it being completely barren. But what I can do is show you a bit of how I constructed it and show you some pictures on my laptop of how the rocks were glued together and what they consist of. One of the first things to mention is that I am a fan of real reef rock, which is a synthetic kind of live rock, but it's purplish in color already when you buy it, so it from the get-go it's looking really nice, and I found that it's actually quite good rock to keep in your reef. As you can see, my reef is looking healthy, so I do not experience any negative effects of using the real reef rock in my tank. So let's start. As you might have noticed before, my Reefscape is built up in 4 sections. Here is one big pillar, then there's kind of a bridge plate, then here's another pillar, then here's another bridge with wantes attached. Here's a third pillar, as you can see a bit through it. Then there's another bridge, and then there here in the corner is the 4th pillar. So, as you can see, 4 main pillars with bridges, creating an open Reefscape, which is a very important thing for me because, as you might have noticed, and that's also a question I get asked quite a lot, I have only one pump. It's a Gyre XF250, which I will cover in a later episode. So that one Gyre has to create flow around the entire tank, while not creating any dead spots, obviously, because that would be a source for cyanobacteria to grow, and you don't want that in your reef. So having an open Reefscape, I think, is a very important part of maintaining a healthy reef. So let's start off with the first bit. On the left here, as you can see, is the first pillar that I mentioned earlier, and right now it's all covered in corals with a stylophora on top and some soft corals attached to the base. So I'm going to show you how I built it. Here is the basic elements that you need to build a pillar yourself, which is in this case real reef rock, and you can glue it together using epoxy, which is a 2-component epoxy, which you can use to you mix it together, and then you put the rocks together, and then in due time it will dry, and then it will be stuck together and you can't move it anymore, and it's a stable structure for you to put in your tank. Here's a picture. Here you can see it being in the reef without any corals attached. So I'll just quickly scroll back. This is the real reef rock, gluing it together, making a structure out of it in your reef. And yeah, then as you can see, that creates the pillar. So when there's nothing attached yet, it looks quite barren, and that it is. But once you start gluing corals onto them, you won't notice it anymore. As you can see, right from the start, this is a purple rock. The shades of purple differ a bit, but overall it looks like a mature reef already when you put it in. And this is one of the pictures that I've taken. I think it's already a year old, where more corals are attached to it. So from bare rock to corals attached to it. So then the second part is this pillar. I don't have too many pictures of this one, but I'll show you one. It's actually a very big plate, a real reef rock plate. They also sell plates, and it's quite large, and it extends all the way from around there to around here, which I think is 30-40 centimeters long. And you can also, when you look underneath it, you can, well, it's hard to see, especially with the copper band there, but it's a very big plate. And then there's a structure on top of it actually. So I'm going to show you that. Here it is. It's still angled a little bit different in this picture because it's angled a little bit more downward right now. But as you can see, a rock on the bottom there, the big plate there, and then another rock piece up there, glued in the same manner as I showed you before. Then the third part of the reef is something you might not recognize right now. I'll show you first. That's this part, and that's actually a ceramic pillar. As you look closely, you can still see it on the bottom right here. You can see through it, but it has all overgrown with coralline algae, so you won't notice that it's actually a ceramic pillar. The white color, the original white color, is all gone. It's all overgrown with coralline algae. And I'll show you what it looked like. It's the one on the left. So that's actually the pillar itself before it was cured. This is the pillar when I just put it in the tank, right there. That's it. So one of the things with these ceramic pillars is that you need to cure them. If you're going to buy one, I think one of the advantages is that they have a very open and nice structure. They look very, well, yeah, very nice. You can easily attach corals to them. They are very, I think, a very good addition to your reef. One of the downsides of using these ceramic pillars is that they can release phosphates over time. And that's something you definitely want to avoid. And in order to do that, it is advised that you cure them before you start using them. And that means you put them in RO water for, I think it's advised to put them in there for multiple weeks, up to a month. Add RoaPhos to it, so make sure that all the leaking phosphates are out of there. If you look closely in another picture, you might have noticed that on the back there was a ceramic pillar as well. That I took out because I noticed that my phosphates were actually rising, so I took the big one out and that fixed it. So on the right here, the ceramic pillar is gone. I mean, that one, that's now also real reef rock, which I'll show you in a minute. And this one is still the ceramic pillar that I showed you on the picture. Fairly unrecognizable, if I might say. Then the last pieces of the reef is this pillar right here. I'll show you from the side, which gives a clearly better picture of how it's constructed. And the copper band again. This is the part of the reef which is the most dusty, as you can see. It's a base pillar with a plate on top, which then again has a structure on top of that as well. And I'm sure you will recognize it when I show you on the laptop. This is it. So again, it's actually kind of the same idea. You buy the real reef rock, you take the epoxy glue, put it together, make a pillar out of it, make sure it's stable. That's one very important part. And then you just add it to the reef. As you can see here, it had just been added to the reef. You might recognize it from the actual aquarium. And here it is. A few days later, still barren, still no corals attached, barely any corals attached. See if I can get it's always hard to show you something on a laptop screen. Anyway, the most important thing is that to take away is that this is the construction, and this is what it looks like in real life. So yeah, that's basically how my reef is constructed. To summarize, it's very important that you create an open reef scape for your tank to create optimal water flow throughout the entire tanks. Dead spots are your enemy, so if you see a dead spot in your aquarium, you have to either adjust your pumps or try to rework your reef scape so that all the water can flow through it nicely. I hope you learned something from this video. I hope you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one.